I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, June the 22nd, 2015. The United Nations Independent Commission of Inquiry on Operation Protective Edge was released today. It stated that both Israel and the Palestinians committed serious violations which may amount to war crimes during the conflict in Gaza this past summer. The report focuses heavily on Israel and its airstrikes in Gaza, saying Israel's roof-knocking technique, where it fires warning rounds ahead of an attack to warn civilians to get out of their building, could not be considered effective. The Israeli airstrikes were aimed at locations where rocket fire emanated from. The report also claims that there were instances where Israel may have intentionally targeted civilians. Regarding terror group Hamas, the report called the indiscriminate targeting of Israeli civilians by Palestinian rockets, saying they may amount to a war crime. Also noting terror tunnels built from Gaza into Israel and Hamas's execution of so-called Palestinian collaborators with Israel as actions that could also constitute war crimes. Israel's foreign ministry called the report morally flawed, saying it is regrettable that the report fails to recognize the profound difference between Israel's moral behavior during Operation Protective Edge and the terror organizations it confronted, noting that Israel is, quote, a democracy forced to defend itself against Palestinian terrorists. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the report biased, saying Israel defends itself in accordance with international law and would continue to do so. An Israeli border policeman was stabbed yesterday morning in Jerusalem's Old City. 18-year-old Palestinian Yasser Yassin Tarwa from the West Bank town of Sa'ir near Hebron is accused of attacking the officer from behind, stabbing him in the neck and chest. The officer, though critically wounded, was able to shoot Tarwa before collapsing. Both were taken to hospitals in Jerusalem. The officer remains in critical condition, though he was showing signs of improvement. He remains in a medically induced coma. The attacker was in critical condition on a respirator. France's Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius met yesterday with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu in Jerusalem, Fabius' final stop on a weekend visit to the Middle East that included meetings in Cairo, Amman, and then Ramallah and Jerusalem, where he told reporters about France's proposal to help relaunch the peace process between Israel and the Palestinians. Fabius said the first component of such a plan is a return to negotiations and that there should be an international committee to, quote, accompany both sides and help them get over the final hurdles of a deal, saying that committee could maybe include the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council: France, Britain, the U.S., China, and Russia, and maybe some Arab countries and other European states. Fabius also stressed that the French effort was not meant to replace the role of the United States. Netanyahu once again stressed that peace can only be achieved through direct talks with no preconditions. He said it will not come from UN resolutions that are sought to be imposed from the outside. Former Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren, has written a book extremely critical of President Obama's attitude towards Israel and critical of the way he, as Israel's ambassador, was treated personally by Obama's chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, and by the president himself. He also claims in the book that Obama abandoned Israel, citing the negotiations with Iran, which Oren writes were conducted behind Israel's back with its, quote, deadliest enemy. Meanwhile, several Israeli statesmen, including leader of the Kulanu party, of which Oren is a member, Moshe Kahlon, and Deputy Foreign Minister Tzipi Hatoveli, have rejected Oren's remarks. Also in America, the book has come under criticism. Today, the Anti-Defamation League cited Oren's suggestion that the president was influenced by the difficult relationships he had with his Muslim father and Muslim stepfather, saying that was, quote, unjustified and insensitive. And the ADL expressed hope that Oren would retract that charge. JBS will be continuing to report on the controversy Ambassador Oren's book is creating throughout the Jewish world. And turning now to our programming for tonight, Monday, June the 22nd, at 7:30, founding rabbi of the Sephardic Edmund J. Safra Synagogue in New York City, Eli Abadi, talks about Sephardic-Ashkenazi relations with Rabbi Joseph Potasnik on Faith to Faith. Then at 8 o'clock, the American Jewish Committee's Stephen Boehm discusses the relationship between American Jews and Israel. At 9 o'clock, Mark Golub sits down with leading scholar on Arab culture Mordechai Kedar for part 1 of L'chaim on the misconceptions Americans have about the Palestinian world. And that's the JBS News Update for Monday, June the 22nd, 2015. I'm Teisha Bader.